What is any horror movie without a death scene or two? It's often the very idea around which genre revolves, allowing audiences to engage with the concept of death in an escapist and entertaining way. There's also something special about a horror movie that serves up a death scene that truly leaves the audience euphoric. No matter what you made of the following horror flicks overall, these deaths absolutely rocked. I'm Sean Ferry for What Culture Horror, and here are 10 recent horror movie deaths everyone loved.
Want to stay safe online and save big? Get up to 76% off a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 4 months free and up to a $50 Amazon gift card. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description and it's all yours.
Number 10. Alfred Milano, Final Destination Bloodlines. Final Destination Bloodlines introduces audiences to arguably one of the most easy to loathe characters in the entire franchise, a young boy by the name of Alfred Milano, whose penchant for reckless coin throwing is ultimately responsible for the collapse of the high-rise restaurant tower in the opening premonition sequence. Alfred nevertheless appears to escape the calamity, even laughing to himself as he runs clear, only to be hilariously crushed to death by a piano that falls from the collapsing restaurant above, turning him into pure pulp. Considering that Alfred was throwing coins off the tower without a care in the world, and this act led to the entire catastrophe, there was no sympathy whatsoever when the obnoxious kid perished, but rather a whole lot of audience satisfaction. But of course, this was just a premonition, and so gets something of an asterisk next to it. Iris ends up taking the coin off Alfred and preventing the predestined disaster from ever happening, saving countless lives, including Alfred's. Eagle-eyed fans who watch the end credits, however, will see a newspaper report that reveals Alfred was quite fittingly killed as an adult by a piano moving truck. Number 9. Uncle Chip, the Monkey. Unquestionably, the most uproariously hilarious death scene of the year so far is Uncle Chip in Oz Perkins' The Monkey. After the cursed monkey reappears at his new home, young Bill decides to turn the monkey's key, despite protests from his twin brother Hal. Just at that moment, we abruptly jump cut to a funeral service of the brother's uncle, Chip, who we learn was killed in a hunting accident. That is to say, he was trampled to death by a stampede of 67 wild horses while in his sleeping bag. Because that's not insane enough, we're then treated to footage of said sleeping bag being opened up, revealing Chip's smushed remains inside. At that moment, adult Hal mentions that he overheard the Undertaker say that what was left of Chip looked like someone drop-kicked a cherry pie. For all the bonkers deaths in this movie, this is the one that really sticks with people, and it's largely down to the hilariously unexpected editing. Number 8. Shepherd Leopold, Death of a Unicorn. A24's new horror comedy Death of a Unicorn is packed to the gills with wholly unlikable characters entirely by design, such that the audience just can't wait to see each of them die horribly. And right at the top of the douche pile is Shepherd Leopold, the son of pharma CEO Odell Leopold and an unrepentant scumbag who finds himself obsessed with exploiting the unicorn's magical healing properties for massive financial gain. At the film's end though, Shepherd certainly gets what's coming to him. He's stabbed by Elliot and, after stumbling around gravely wounded, is kicked in the face by one of the unicorns, sending him flying many feet into the air. And of course, what goes up must come down, with Shepherd then face-planting on the unforgiving concrete floor, causing his head to leak blood like a faucet, killing him instantly, to say nothing of the massive head injuries sustained. Truly, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy though. Number 7. The Predator, Killer of Killers. Predator, Killer of Killers is a film that features more severed heads and ripped out spines than most people have had hot dinners, and yet its coolest death was afforded to one of the Predators themselves. The second story, The Sword, takes place in feudal Japan and revolves around the conflict between estranged brothers Kenji and Kiyoshi, who put their differences aside to battle a predator that's hunting Kenji. In the ensuing battle, the Predator uses its cloaking technology to hide from the siblings, who nevertheless deduce the creature's location thanks to a falling leaf and promptly slice it with their respective swords. Cue a gorgeous shot of the Predator's cloaking device deactivating, after which we see the creature fall apart, its remains dropping to the ground in a sea of bright green blood. This might well be the coolest way that anyone has ever defeated a predator, and in a film jam-packed with creatively grisly kills, it stands tall as the very best. Number 6. Josh, Companion. Sometimes, a movie death is just about giving the audience what they want, and with its big climactic villain death, Companion did precisely that. Though the sci-fi horror film reveals in its opening scene that companion robot Iris kills her owner Josh by the end of the story, we of course have to wait another 90 minutes to see it all play out. And on a few occasions throughout Companion, director Drew Hancock draws special attention to an electric corkscrew, enough that attentive viewers will likely assume that this weapon will be used by Iris to kill the scheming Josh at the end. And yep, that's that's exactly what happens. During their final scuffle, Iris reaches for said corkscrew, jams it up against Josh's head, and activates the electric mechanism, causing it to bore a hole into Josh's skull, killing him instantly. Sure, a lot of people saw it coming, but sometimes doing the predictable thing is the right call, especially when it's as inventively gnarly as this. Number 5. Grand Dragon Hogwood Sinners. Though it's undeniably neat seeing the vampiric antagonist Remick go up in flames at the end of Ryan Coogler's fantastic Sinners, that's not quite the most satisfying death in the movie. Now that's afforded instead to the real main antagonist of the movie, Hogwood, the racist landowner who sells the sawmill to Smoke and Stack and is later revealed to be the Grand Dragon of the local branch of the Ku Klux Klan. After Remick and the other vampires are killed, Hogwood and his men arrive at dawn to attack any survivors, only for Smoke to stage one final scorched earth last stand against the forces he's wildly outnumbered by. Smoke manages to obliterate the collective clansmen, albeit while getting mortally wounded himself, but before he dies, he unloads a full machine gun clip into Hogwood in what's surely the single most cathartic death scene of the entire year so far. Number 4. Tucker, Dangerous Animals. Above all else, Dangerous Animals does a fantastic job of making viewers absolutely despise its central villain. That'd be serial killer Tucker, a Hall of Famer sicko who kidnaps people and then videotapes himself feeding them to sharks. The sharks are just doing their natural thing, but Tucker's an absolute monster, played with delicious relish by Jai Courtney in a career best performance, and so the audience absolutely can't wait to see him finally get his at the end. And that he certainly does, as in a fitting turning of the tables, protagonist Zephyr shoots Tucker with a harpoon, causing him to fall into the water where he helplessly thrashes around. Of course, it's just a matter of time before the inevitable happens, as he's soon enough scooped out of the water by a massive great white shark and devoured. To make it even better, Tucker's demise is captured by the very same camera he used to record the deaths of his victims. You love to see it. Number 3. Detective Shaw, Heart Eyes. The predictability of Heart Eye's main killer being Detective Janine Shaw is somewhat offset by how insanely brutal her death ultimately is. In her final clash with heroine Ali, Shaw is shoved into a statue of Saint Valentine, where she's impaled through the neck by its sharp sword. Shaw is then totally helpless as she's left pinned to the statue by her neck, the weight of her own body causing her to slowly be decapitated. Furthermore, she remains entirely conscious of this process while it's happening to her. Eventually, Shaw's body is torn clear from her head, dropping to the ground in a grisly mess a few moments before her head also hits the floor. To call it a deserved fate is quite the understatement. Any slasher movie worth its salt needs to afford a memorable death to its main villain, and for all its flaws, Heart Eyes most certainly did that, aided by some truly spectacular practical gore effects. Number 2. Everyone Explodes Until Dawn. The brilliance of Until Dawn's time loop conceit is that it allows the central characters to be killed again and again and again in myriad creative, gory ways. The very best of these deaths happens when the central quintet all drink tap water that, unbeknownst to them, is fatally contaminated. One by one, the group violently explodes from the inside, their remnants being splattered over the remaining survivors until, of course, they're all wiped out. The visual effects and sound design work are outstanding here, ensuring a result that's both utterly disgusting and thigh-slappingly funny. The gag also circles back around at the end in gloriously satisfying fashion when the villainous Dr. Hill is tricked into drinking some of the contaminated water and himself explodes. Until Dawn may have been a relatively disappointing adaptation of the hit video game overall, but in the very least, it didn't skimp on the wildly over-the-top gore fans of the game surely expected. Number 1. Count Orlok, Nosferatu. Though there was little truly surprising about Count Orlok's death in Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, considering it largely follows the cues of the source material, that didn't stop it from being absolutely horrifying. Orlok is killed in the film's climax when Ellen submits to him, allowing him to feed upon her until dawn, Orlok's base appetites overpowering his knowledge that the emerging sunrise will kill him. Ellen holds him close as he continues to feed until the sun begins to burn him. He bleeds from seemingly every orifice and his body shrivels to its skeletal form. It's total nightmare fuel to behold, and yet Ellen and Orlok's embracing remains also makes for one hell of a striking, even weirdly beautiful image. Furthermore, having Ellen be a more active participant in both her own and Orlok's fate is just far more interesting from a character perspective. Whether you agree or not that Eggers bettered the 1922 Nosferatu overall, Orlok's death scene makes the most of the modern tools and sensibilities to deliver something far more visceral and effective.